Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV, here to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2019 KZ Sportsmen SE 230 RB SE. Starting right here at the front of the trailer. You've got your propane and battery systems. To access the propane valves, you can open the flap on the top of the cover or just remove the whole cover to access the bottles themselves. Here you've got two 20-pound propane bottles. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. You can see the supply arrow on the regulator pointing to this bottle, and the sight glass here showing red. That shows that there's no propane flowing from this bottle. As I open that valve, the sight glass turns from red to clear. That indicates that there's propane flowing from the supply bottle. What we recommend is opening both bottles. Then the regulator will deplete the supply bottle first and automatically start to pull from the second bottle. When that happens, this sight glass will turn back to red, and you can switch the supply arrow over to the other bottle to remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Behind the propane bottles is where you'll find your RV battery. Two leads going to the battery, red to positive and black to negative. It's a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require a little bit of maintenance. We recommend a couple of times a year removing these two caps to expose the 6 cells underneath. Check the fluid level in the cells, and if it looks a little bit low, and especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the fluid, you'll want to top it up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend removing the battery for winter storage. Store it indoors, somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and if possible, put a charge on the battery once or twice over the course of the off season. Behind the battery is a battery disconnect switch. Green is on or connected, and red is off or disconnected. Leave that in the on position anytime you're using the RV, whether you're plugged into power or not. The only time you should have the battery disconnect switch in the red disconnected position is if the RV is in storage for a few days or weeks at a time and you want to prevent the battery from discharging. Here in the front storage compartment is where you'll find your 30 amp power cord. Many of the RV sites that you visit will have 30 amp power. For those that don't, we supply a 15 amp park adapter to plug into a regular residential power outlet. Right behind this panel here is where you would access your water pump. There's one screw to remove right here to open up the panel, and attached to the water pump is an antifreeze siphon line. So when you go to winterize, you can turn a valve, put the siphon line into the jug of antifreeze, and activate your water pump to pump water or pump antifreeze through all of the water lines. Also relating to your freshwater system is your freshwater fill. This is a gravity fill right into the freshwater tank, and your city water connection that you can hook up to if you're staying at a site with water hookups. We recommend using a white non-toxic drinking water hose for both of these, and if you're hooking into city water, we recommend a water pressure regulator to maintain proper operating pressure in your water system and ensure against over pressurizing the system. To drain that freshwater tank, you'll find a drain line right underneath here, the blue line with the valve on it. That will drain the water from the freshwater tank. Here at your running gear, you've got tires inflated to 65 psi. That's stamped right on the sidewall of the tire, 65 psi cold, and we do recommend running your tires right at 65 psi. Also, your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. We recommend periodic retorquing of lug nuts on a towable RV and repacking of wheel bearings every year. This model has the Easy Lube axles, so by removing this rubber cap here, you can expose a grease zerk. You can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. That doesn't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but as long as you're giving it a little bit of fresh grease once or twice a year, instead of repacking wheel bearings every year, you could probably repack wheel bearings every 3 to 5 years. Right behind the running gear is where your sewer termination system is. So to dump your holding tanks, you'll hook up your sewer hose right here. Sewer hose is stored inside the rear bumper, and we supply a new 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose. So hook the hose up to here, other end goes into the ground, and then you've got 2 valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Always dump your black valve first. Once that's finished dumping, you can close this valve and open the gray valve to dump your gray water and use your sink and shower water to kind of flush that sewage contents through the hose. Once that's finished, you'll want to close that valve and replace the travel cap. You've got stabilizer jacks on all 4 corners. Once you've got the RV parked and relatively close to level, you'll crank these down to be snug with the ground, but you don't want to actually lift the trailer with them. They're not designed for leveling so much as stability. So just nice and snug with the ground. Here on the back of the trailer is where your spare tire is mounted. It's worth mentioning that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench, so you want to just check and make sure that you have a wrench available with you when you're traveling that fits your lug nuts, just in case you do need to change a tire on the fly. And hot water tank is located here on the back as well. This is a gas electric hot water tank, so it can be used electrically if you're staying at a site that has power hookups. To do that, you'll have to press the black rocker switch to the on position. We like to leave it off so as not to accidentally start up the tank if you don't mean to. You've also got 2 black reset buttons in here. And if you ever overheat the tank, primarily because it's been started up with no water in it, you'll need to come out here and just press these 2 reset buttons before the tank will start up again. This is also where you'll drain the tank. So you can pull the plug out of the bottom of the tank. It's a 1 1/16 inch socket to drain all of the water out of the tank in the winterizing process. Before you pull this plug out, you'll want to bleed the water pressure off of the tank so that it doesn't spray when you remove the plug. On the end of that plug is a rod about this long. It's your sacrificial anode rod. The purpose of that rod is to corrode over time to prevent the inside lining of the tank from corroding. So that can get quite corroded and pitted looking over time, but it's just doing its job. Once it's down to the tiny little steel bar in the center, it's time to replace it. Typically every 3 to 5 years, depending on water quality. Around the camping side of the trailer, not a whole bunch to cover. Your awning is a height adjustable power awning. I'll show you from just inside the door how to operate that. When you're opening up your step, grab underneath the bar with 2 hands. The first step slides out, the second one rolls, and the third flips. So flip, roll, slide. And just inside the entry door is where you'll control that awning. With the awning switch extend and retract, if we just press and hold the extend button, the awning extends 8 feet, and you don't have to run it out the full 8 feet. You can stop it at any point if there's a tree or another RV in the way. And this awning is height adjustable. So when it's fully extended, you can adjust either side. We recommend only adjusting one side to control where the rainwater drains off by pulling down on this lower arm. So just pull down on that to drop one side of the awning. Before you retract the awning, we recommend putting them back up both to full height. That will ensure that the awning canvas rolls up evenly on the tube when you bring the awning in. Come on inside the RV. and I'll show you a few more things. Starting at the kitchen, where you have a 3-burner gas stovetop. To light the burners, turn the burner knobs over to high, and you can use the piezo sparker to light any of the 3 burners. Always recommend, when you change out a propane bottle on the system, anytime you have your propane system disconnected, the first thing you should do upon reconnecting the propane is come in here and just light all 3 burners. If you can get all 3 burners lit, you know you've bled the air off of the system, and you'll have no problem starting up your automatic appliances, your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank. Your oven is propane as well, and it actually uses the sparker as well to light right here. So to light the oven, turn it over to the pilot emblem, press in and hold on this pilot knob, and then you can use the sparker to light the oven pilot. And this takes a second just to get that air through there. Once you can see the pilot burning, hold in the knob for another 10 or 15 seconds for the thermocouple to heat up, and then you can release it and turn the oven up to temperature. That'll light the burner. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back down to pilot and just leave the pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and relight the oven next time you need to use it. The little blue switch is for your backlit stove knobs. Your fridge is an automatic gas electric fridge. So to turn it on, just press the on button, and we recommend always leaving it in A for automatic. In automatic mode, if it has electricity available, it will always run on electricity, but if it loses electricity, it'll sense that and switch over to gas. You can override the automatic mode to only run on electricity or only run on gas, and you might find that the fridge cools a little faster running on gas than it does electricity. This model of fridge also has a temperature adjustment, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. I usually set it to 3 or 4, but you may find you need to adjust that depending on the ambient conditions. To shut the fridge off, press and hold the on button for 3 seconds. Beneath the fridge is the power converter. This is the power center for the entire RV. So you can see you've got 110 volt breakers protecting all of your AC circuits and 12 volt fuses protecting all of your DC circuits. Primarily you've got 15 amp fuses, but you've also got a 20 and a couple of 40 amps there. So it's not a bad idea to have some spare fuses on hand. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse, and if you have some spares, it won't be a big deal if you need to change one at the campground. The thermostat on the wall controls the heating system for the RV. So to activate the furnace, set the thermostat up to temperature. You hear the furnace fan come on immediately, and it's going to take a few seconds before we hear that burner actually ignite. But you should be able to hear it when the BSI kicks in. There we go. So now if we gave it a few seconds, we would have warm air blowing right from the front of the furnace. Once it comes up to temperature, or you shut the system off, the burner goes out immediately, but that fan is going to continue to run for 30 seconds or up to a minute just to go through its cycle before it shuts down. With this style of thermostat, when you turn it off, make sure to hear an audible click. Otherwise, all you've done is turn it way down, and if the RV is sitting in storage and it's getting cool in the evenings, that furnace might be trying to come on and depleting your battery and propane systems. Here in the bathroom behind me, this is where you'll find your monitor panel system. So here at this monitor panel, you've got 3 red switches on the bottom. The one on the left is to activate your water pump if you're operating off of your freshwater reserves. You'll have to have that water pump on. And 2 switches for the hot water heater. The one on the right for electricity. Remember, if you're going to run your hot water tank on electricity, you'll also need to have the black switch on the outside of the tank turned on. And the one in the center for propane. So this will light the propane burner for the tank. And when I turn that on, the red fault light comes on, showing that the burner is not running. But just like the fridge or the furnace, if we give that a second, we'll hear the DSI spark and that burner light up. Just like so. And it'll probably take 20 to 25 minutes for the water to come up to temperature. This is also where you'll find your monitor panel, so you can monitor the level of your battery, which is completely charged right now, fresh tank, which is completely empty, black tank, and gray tank, which are both also completely empty right now. This is also where you'll find the GFI power outlet for the RV. So just like the outlets in your house with a test and reset button, but in an RV, this is wired in series with several of your other power outlets. So if you trip the GFI, you'll lose power to all of your power outlets. If you're ever plugged into power and can't figure out why your outlets don't work, come into here, press the reset button, likely everything will go back to normal. And anytime you're using the RV's sewer system, you'll want to make sure to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. It's available in powder, liquid, or tablet form. And when you add chemical to the tank, just pour the chemical right into the toilet and use the foot flush. You push halfway down on the foot flush. You can fill the bowl with water, and then the rest of the way down to dump everything into the tank. It's important to put some water down with that chemical. It takes some water to activate it. And you'll want to add chemical to the tank immediately following every time you dump your black holding tank. So always use a good potent toilet chemical, and always use RV paper as well that breaks down with the chemical. Right here on the wall is where you'll find your 12-volt stereo. So this is an AM, FM, CD, DVD, USB, auxiliary, and Bluetooth stereo. And it's important to note that it has 2 speaker zones. Zone 1 is interior, Zone 2 is exterior. So especially if you're using it as a DVD player, make sure you've got your Zone 2 speakers turned off. Otherwise, the sound of your DVD is playing through the rest of the campground. There should be a propane leak detector somewhere, and here it is. So your propane detector, this is a combination propane and carbon monoxide detector. It'll do 3 things. It will alert you to a propane leak, obviously. However, if there was a propane leak in the trailer, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm goes off. It could also alert you to a carbon monoxide situation, in which case you wouldn't smell anything. But the third and most common thing that it can do is alert you to a low voltage situation. This is wired into the RV's 12-volt electrical system. So if your RV battery gets very low, this will alarm just to alert you to a low battery. You've also got a smoke detector that is not wired into the RV's electrical system. So this has its own 9-volt battery. You'll want to check this a couple of times a year as part of your periodic maintenance, just by pressing the test button to make sure that that battery hasn't gone dead. Air conditioning controls for this trailer are controlled right from the air conditioner unit itself. So you can turn the switch to low or high fan to only run the air conditioner fan, or low or high cool to run the actual air conditioning itself. And then you've got a thermostat to toggle the air conditioning on and off based on the ambient temperature. Right here next to the master bed is an emergency escape exit. Recommend just practicing opening and closing this a few times because it can be a little bit tricky if you've never used it before. This style of escape window you can prop open for some ventilation. If you do need to use it as an emergency exit, it just hinges all the way up. Just grab the red tab on the screen remove this thing. The only other thing, we showed you at the front where to access your water pump for winterizing. To access your hot water tank, you can remove the back panel under the bunk bed, or there is also a removable panel underneath the bunk bed. And when you access the back of that hot water tank, there's a set of valves there to bypass the tank. So you'll, as part of the winterizing process, you'll drain the water from the tank and turn the valves on the back of the tank to isolate it so that you can pump antifreeze through your cold water lines and your hot water lines without filling the tank. And that's where you'll access that. And I think that pretty much covers it. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2019 Sportsman SE 230 RBSE. BHSE, I'm sorry, 230 BHSE. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.